We're gonna go do a craft. Oh, okay. I'll carry this.
Well, we're here on this lovely day with Carla, who's the senior manager for the Discovery Center. And we're going to talk a little bit about how this year's junior naturalist camps have been going, because that is the project that you guys wanted to have funded this year.
That is, and we are super grateful to you guys for funding us. It's very helpful to have the funds to help us run these programs, because they're so important, right? We want to be getting kids out into nature, learning more about their environment and having a good time while doing it. So we had a super successful year so far. We managed to run 8 sessions, so throughout July and August. And we have various age ranges that we do it for. So we start as early as age 4 and go all the way up to age 13. So each week is a different age. We try to keep the ages close together so that we can cater the content to that age appropriate level. And we had 89 participants this year, which is up quite a bit. So our averages over the last years were around 60-65 kids. So we've kind of upped it a little bit after a few more sessions and just had really good uptake. We even had some wait lists, which we tried our best to offer additional sessions to get those in, because we want to get every kid possible out with us and learning. So
well, I wanted to ask you about that, because now you're at the stage where this is a mature program. This is, and we're honored to fund it, because I know we funded it in the past, but it's now one of the more established programs in the Valley. It's been around for many years. I don't know how many. How are you seeing what you do change year after year as you grow into a mature program?
Yeah, I think with doing it many years, you get to learn the ins and outs and kind of what works, what doesn't work too as well. The wildlife area itself offered the programs for decades before the Discovery Center took over doing them in 2018. So we've been doing them for 5 years now. And each year we've seen growth in the programs and are able to offer more sessions. And I think with the program being well established, we have a good reputation, so people know, kind of know what to expect. We get a lot of returning students too as well, so they'll come year after year, which I love. I love to see them start with us at 5 years old, and I'm seeing them all the way up till they're 13, right? They're coming each year for it. So to have the return from the students is really positive, so we know they're enjoying it, they're having fun, they're coming back for more. And I think too, we do seasonal staff each year. It usually changes, so we have 3 to 4, usually university age students who are studying biology, natural resources along in this area of interest, and we get their enthusiasm, their interest. Some will love plants. We have one this year who loves birds and is super knowledgeable about birds, so she's catered some of her programs to be very bird centric, because she knows tons and she's teaching them tons of great information. So I think be able to keep it fresh each year too as well, with influx of our staffing and their interests, and just build on that each year. And the hope is that my hope is to get as many kids as I possibly can throughout the season in our program. So whatever capacity we can offer, however many sessions we can offer and fill, we will continue to do that.
What are you seeing change in kids? I know, it's a beautiful wilderness area.
Yeah.
And even still, there's a lot of kids in town that don't necessarily get out a lot.
There are. Yeah, and those are the ones you really want to try and capture, isn't it? Yeah. And you do see that. You see some kids come out who say they've never been here before, or we get that with school programs too. They're like, this is the first time I've ever been here, and they've lived here for many years. So that can depend on their family or parents' interest too, right? On getting them out there. So that's always a challenge, to try and get those kids that maybe don't come out here as a leisure activity with their families, right, to get them out to our programs. We do see it, and we get the ones that are also the keen nature enthusiasts. Their parents know they love this, their kids love this, so they send it out. So I think that's kind of a little bit of a challenge, to try and get that market that maybe doesn't come out here often too, right?
So in terms of finances, I know, because I've had kids in these programs. It seems like it's at a price point that is fairly accessible for a lot of people. Is there ever a situation where parents come to you and say, I'd love to send my kid to camp, but there's no funding? Or are you trying to peg it down at a...
We do try to keep it at a level. Like, I've looked aroand at what other similar type programs are offering in terms of pricing, and try to keep it under even what that is, because like you said, you want to make it affordable to everybody who can. We've had instances where parents have come and said, I'd love to send my kid, but I don't have the resources to do it, and we've been able sometimes to match that to, we know a funder or a donor might be keen on saying, we can say, hey, we have this kid who wants to go, would you want to sponsor them, kind of thing, and they would say yes, we do.
So you have like a running list of that.
There's a little bit of a tally for that, so that if that does come, it hasn't happened too often, but if it does, then if we can match a kid with a donor to get them out here, if they couldn't otherwise do so, then and the funding that you guys provide is a huge amount that will help us to offset some of those costs too, right?
So do you ever have issues finding, I know there's been huge employment
Yes.
Is it ever trouble to find the instructors to line up the students?
Not usually. This year actually was my only year, but I had probably about half to a third of the amount of resumes in that I usually get. Sometimes we'll get like 120 resumes coming in
For how many
positions?
positions?
For 3 to 4 positions.
Wow.
So it's a lot to weed through. Yeah, get good at that over the years to do that. But this year I think I had 45 resumes come in, so it was on the lower end, and that kind of shocked me a little bit, but that's what you were hearing with all industries across the board, right? But I still manage. I have amazing staff this year, so even from that I was able to get some great, I call them kids, they're not kids, young adults. As I get older they turn into kids. Young adults to come and help deliver all these programs.
So I know a lot of people have said that it takes a lot to be a successful instructor at one of these camps, because you have a group of strangers, little tiny kids who are also strangers to each other.
That's right, yes.
What kind of people skills are you pulling out in these instructors? Like, what are they?
Yeah, they have to, they come with us usually with some kind of interest or background on working with kids. That's kind of, when I interview them, I want to make sure that they have that passion, that interest, that knowledge, that even background experience to some degree, whether it's volunteering or a position working with kids, because it's a huge part of what we do. The school programs, the summer camps, it's a lot of kid stuff. So they have to have that kind of background or that keenness to start with. And then it's just, training them throughout the school programs really helps. They kind of get to know kids and how to work with them and deliver the programs. And then we just work with them to help develop all their programs so they can look at past content for previous years. I always encourage them to bring their own interests and knowledge in. We sit down together and put your schedule together for the week, various themes, various
So they are individually developed every year.
They are. Each year they change. They might pull from past years and be like, oh, I really like that idea, or an actress has highlighted and said this worked really well. So the one's like, okay, I'm keen to try that too. So, you'll bring in stuff that, works. I usually have my core list of things that we are definitely incorporated. Your canoeing, your hiking, got some science experiments doing, your crafting, your drama, you do some acting or plays or puppets or something like that, right? It's got little bits of everything because you're trying to cater to, like you said, a whole diverse group of kids have different interests. Not everybody likes crafts, not everybody likes, hiking. So if you do little bits of everything, you're hoping that you're hitting that button for all those kids to have a fun time. That's what we want. We want it to be fun and interactive.
And obviously here you are in nature, and there's a lot of things you can't control.
Yeah.
What are some of the crazy, weird challenges you've had to deal with this year or other years?
Yeah, it always turns out to be super high water or super low water, super hot, really rainy, or smoky. Those environmental factors seem to be, the last few years especially, we're battling that.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes this year were absolutely horrific, so that in itself was a challenge, especially with little ones. So we're encouraging long sleeves, long pants, hats. We're spritzing the kids down if they're okay with it, to make it so it's feasible to get out there and explore, because that can be a distraction, right? Those little things can be of it. So there's always some kind of element. Every year I say, well, what's it going to be this year? What's nature going to throw our way? Yeah, and you can't prepare, I swear, because it's always different every year of what you're dealing with. This year was high water. We had flooding of trails. We had limited ability to get our canoes out under that bridge to get actually out for our canoe tours too,
because the water
was too high. We only had this much clearance. You're not getting a boat in the head underneath that. Yeah. So every year there's usually always something that kind of plays with you. But
so how did you get through the bridge issue?
We actually ended up using the channel behind us. So instead of going out into the big ponds, we could paddle this channel all the way to Highway 3 actually pretty well along there. And there's some neat little kind of spots that we can pull out and look and still be able to provide an experience and look at things on the boat version.
Cool.
So we adapted, right?
So what's your dream for next year? I know you said as many kids as possible.
Yeah.
What's the goal?
The goal, I think it's just, we're actually, right now we are ending a 5-year funding kind of commitment that we had from 2 large funders, and this is the last year of their commitment for that. So moving into next year, we're actually at this point of finding additional funders to fill those gaps.
Right.
So at this point, I'm just we're trying our best effort to diversify our funding portfolio, get as many if we can, so we can continue to move on. So at this point, it's just about get what we need to continue operating to this capacity that we have at least this year. If I can expand that and offer more programs, more tours, if we have the resources to do it, then we're on board and we're ready to go. So this year's kind of that different year for us, the year 5, the transition. So it's all about finding that funding sources, making sure that we can continue doing what we're doing. Yeah, so that's a big challenge actually moving forward for the coming years.
Yeah. And,
you've got comfortable for 5 years in like a nice little.
Any chance those two big funders are going to hop back on? Or?
One, I think for sure. The other one kind of wants to see us diversify a little bit more in other areas, and is looking. They're, I think, looking more towards the future of when we hope to build a new interpretive center, which is still kind of in the works and in the makes as a long-term goal of wanting to build a similar, center to
what
kind of
used
what we
to be
had
here,
before. Yeah, the large. I point behind me because that's where it was. Yeah.
But
The
it's
large
funny because we
center.
were walking here, and both of us can orient ourselves basically by the old building. For many of us
that's
who
right.
used to
Oh, of
come here,
course.
it's like it's right.
Yeah.
It was right there.
It was there since the 70s, 1974. It was built, so it
And
was
it's
an
like
iconic.
it was never there at all.
I
now.
know, right? Yeah, the footprint's not there anymore. So they do hope to build a new center, and we're hoping to grab that funder back on board at that point when it happens. So, yeah,
But in the meantime, all the kids are still getting out there.
exactly. We're still doing what we're
Doing
doing,
their
and
thing.
we hope to continue that on into the future. Yeah, we have our little tiny interpretive center, and it's doing
It's
its job.
working.
It's cute. It's 600 square feet. The other one was 6,000 square feet. So it's a little bit of a
Squish.
down
Intimacy.
to it, but yeah, it
Oh.
still offers what we need it to offer. It's just a spot to people to gather.
Well, and it's funny
get
because for
information.
these kids, they never knew that building is there.
Well,
So
exactly.
for them,
Yeah, some
they
people
never
don't have
know
that
anything
history.
different.
Yeah, that's very true.